Hello, everyone. I'm Tony Rost, CTO of Toad. And today we're continuing our series of interviews with AWS ISV partners in the media and entertainment industry. My guest today is Lincoln Spiteri, Vice President of Engineering at Dalet, makers of end-to-end media management solutions. Last year, Dalet acquired Uyala, a move that substantially improved Dalet's strategic positioning in the media and entertainment space. And I am particularly excited to meet with Lincoln because Dalet is positioned at the center of technology trends that I'm quite passionate about. The rise of cloud microservice architecture, the unification of linear and nonlinear media, and accessible innovation with machine learning. So without further ado, welcome, Lincoln. It's great to have you with us today.
Hi, nice to be here.
So tell us broadly, what does Dalet do and how does it fit in the media and entertainment space?
Okay, so Dalet is a technology company building solutions and offering services across the breadth of media and entertainment. We facilitate the creation of content, particularly in newsrooms, for example, management of content, so measuring large archives, large libraries of assets, transcoding, high quality, high grade transcoding services, and also live ingest services. The company's been around for 30 years. We're headquartered in France, but we have 19 offices globally, so a pretty global outfit, 450 employees in total. Yeah, and it's been a great journey. The company has grown through a number of acquisitions. The last one, which happened last year, was the Uyala Flex Media platform, which has been on its own journey for the last 11 or 12 years or so.
Mm-hmm. And tell me about the product that you particularly focus on, the Flex product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Flex started off life as a workflow orchestration platform. So the founders who initially conceived the idea behind Flex were working at the forefront of the transformation of media companies going from tape to digital. Fully file-based workflows, and the realization that this as soon as you're in that realm, the integration dynamics change, and now you're talking about integrating IT systems rather than wiring up individual pieces of hardware. So that is where it started from, and then as we went along, we realized that just doing the orchestration piece. It is valuable, but actually you need to have a handle on the sort of assets that are under management, and then if you're managing assets and moving them around, then the value is further increased if you're also managing the metadata that comes along with those with the assets, and then we found ourselves being asked not to just handle media assets, but any other type of assets, and also information that is relevant to the creation of assets. So we can actually model different entities within the organization, which can be sort of associated with media assets as well. So yeah, it just became a more comprehensive platform, fully end to end. But our roots are deeply in workflow orchestration.
Yeah, that's been quite the journey. I think you and I were both working probably on hardware based solutions for video distribution. And with the rise of cloud, at first it was an infrastructure promise where we could have less machines that were on the ground trying to wire in and trying to debug. And now it was an infrastructure solution. It was a pricing solution. But then it introduced so many new opportunities around big data, around archiving, but most importantly around delivering content to multiple screens through multiple mediums. And then now it's the introduction of machine learning. And one of the things that I think is really fascinating is the rise of metadata and how metadata has become kind of the key player in orchestration. So I've really enjoyed the journey of how, you know, the rise of the cloud has kind of transformed management and distribution of assets over the past 20 years. What has been your experience coming from hardware, from custom solutions in the 90s and 2000s to today? How did you get more involved with the cloud personally? How did you kind of evolve and start advocating for cloud solutions? What was that experience like for you?
Okay, so my first experience in media was actually running a headend for digital terrestrial television. And there it was, you know, your classic, you know, hardware racked up, you know, individual encoders, you know, hardware multiplexers, receiving feeds from satellites and muxing them and redistributing them. So it was a completely different proposition. But also the way we used to receive content there, perhaps it's still being done, you know, was actually coordinating download, you know, from satellite feeds and literally recording that, you know, through some means and then playing it back out. So definitely, you know, in those days, you know, they're far gone. You know, that sort of contribution nowadays is, you know, really, you know, done in very particular situations. My next step was actually to move away from media, and actually work with a company that you know, asked us, you know, to build our own infrastructure as a service. So it was a company that you know, we built a data center back in 2008, and part of the vision of the business was to actually offer cloud services. This was, you know, at the very beginning, you know, early days when AWS was still emerging. You know, Netflix were having success in AWS, even though they had two wobbles, you know, in quick succession. So that sort of showed the pitfalls of cloud early on. So I have experience in actually building the machinery of you know, cloud infrastructure, how you know, create and deploy VMs and you know, the networking fabric that puts everything together, and all those sort of things. Obviously, things have moved a lot since then. I'm talking here 2009, 2010. But when I joined the Native, which is, you know, which is the creator of which is where the Flex Media platform actually started life, it became clear that, you know, the need of you know, the transformation from tape to file based systems do lend themselves a lot to the cloud. So very early on, even though there was some you know, our customers and the people that we were speaking to were seeing cloud as a long-term goal, but they were all sort of looking at it. So, you know, we were doing some work with, you know, here in the UK with ITV, for example. They were trying to see how they're going to modernize, but they were still running most of their workloads on-prem, and it wasn't an easy task, especially when you don't have the direct control over the hardware. But, you know, there were already some experiments and some experience we had gained, you know, working. You know, our founders had worked with the BBC, and the BBC were already utilizing AWS services pretty heavily. They were early adopters. So for us, it was, you know, so obvious that the next thing is going to be, yes, we have, you know, digital, you know, but rather than having big rooms filled with tapes, now we have big rooms filled with tracks, and those tracks are expensive, and they require a lot of maintenance. You know, they break, and you need to have disaster recovery and all of that, and it becomes extremely complicated. And I think, you know, media companies want to create media, and I think the cloud providers are such a comfortable proposition, and that you could see it coming, you know, from miles away. So back in 2014, we started the transformation to, you know, go from monolithic software to microservices architecture, making it cloud native, and you know, starting a long transformation of our software product that would hopefully fit, hand in glove, nicely with the future that we saw coming to us. And so far, so good. I think we've predicted well. Obviously, there's been some accelerations along the way, but yeah, that's where we're coming from. I think it's an evolution, and so a pretty organic one so far.
Yeah. So let's talk about today. So today, with the portfolio of solutions that you have, where does the solution set fit in the AWS media ecosystem? So how does it complement AWS Elemental, Media Live, or Media Store? If I'm currently using Media Live or Media Store or Elastic Transcorder, for example, how does the Dalet solution set kind of complement or work in that environment?
Okay, so part of what we try and achieve with a system like Flex is to basically provide an integration backbone that allows you to access services like these in a very uniform manner, to be able to then use them through, say, workflow automation. So for us, anything that has an API is game. We're happy to integrate with that. So these services are, we have integration into the Elemental transcode services and media transform. So I think it's a fairly natural fit, and it's not just about starting a transcode. There's all the automation that can come in with the system that is orchestrating and coordinating the work, such as scheduling the starting of the recording and all those things. So it becomes more, you're putting more automation in there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that's what we're trying to achieve here with a system like Flex. It's really trying to hide away the complexity of standing up these systems, using them effectively and cheaply, because ultimately, cloud is a blessing, but it's also one that can, it's got a sting in its tail. It can be an expensive proposition. So what we're trying to do is to, enable our customers to use and consume the cloud resources in a responsible way, one that's not going to break the bank for them.
That's great. One challenge that I've noticed a lot of customers having is that the cloud is evolving faster than their internal capabilities can keep up with. And so, I spend a great deal of time trying to just be a good guide and advisor on the latest and greatest in cloud technologies. And it sounds like the solutions that Dalet has are doing the same thing. They're trying to enable them to adopt the best practices and standards of the cloud, take advantage of that without causing them a lot of headache. Mm-hmm. That's great. Metadata, something that I thought was kind of a second-tier topic for a long time has now become a first-tier topic. And largely it's because metadata is not just serving, EPGs, feeding SCUDdy codes, that kind of thing. It's moving into kind of the data backbone that orchestrates delivery across multiple screens and multiple mediums. What are the trends in the importance of metadata and metadata management that you've noticed, and where do you think the industry is going with standards around new types of metadata schemas and maybe even machine learning augmentation of metadata?
Yeah, well, I think again, now that we are not dealing with tape archives, video tape archives, and pieces of paper, and everything is digitized, it does create a problem, because suddenly you have the ability to store as much data as you want. It becomes an infinite space, and you can store as much data. So we are seeing a lot of our customers wanting to store as much data as possible, both descriptive metadata and temporal metadata, describing what's happening within a piece of content, and also, as I described earlier, associating business data, metadata, to a piece of content. So it's not just content derived data, but there's also like, stuff that drives the business, things like budgeting, talent and those sort of things. I think in terms of standards, well, our mission really is to be able to embrace standards, but not necessarily be rigid and be driven by standards. Because one of the things that I think is important, and what we're seeing with the transformation, and one of the things that cloud and at a large scale provide, is agility. And standards, they're good when you're doing when you're moving content between different providers. And I think in that interface, standards have a big role to play. But in your day-to-day business, you want your metadata schemas and those sort of things to be malleable. They need to change. The business is always transforming itself. When you're transforming at a fast pace, you're going to get things wrong, and you might want to revisit certain assumptions and either capture more data or to adjust the structure of the metadata system. But definitely sort of starts verging on a big data problem. And one of the main tenets of that is, okay, now you have all this data which you're capturing, either through automated means, say, using AI augmentation, which we're seeing more and more of. Dalet has products that allow you to sort of aggregate different AI engines and then to build the results which we can then associate to the asset. But then, okay, you have all this data. What do you do with it? How do you find it? So search becomes a big part of the value proposition, and having good tools to access the catalog through all the various facets that the metadata is offering is a very important aspect. So yeah, I mean, it's time of plenty, and just people do because they can, and then they find that they've created another problem. But luckily, ones that computer science has solved a long time ago. So it's now really us enabling those solutions to towards this new problem that we've created for ourselves. But they're good problems to solve, and knowing more about your data, especially for archivists, and dealing with very historical data, and those sort of things is important. But one thing that we can't really remove from this equation is the humans. They are ultimately the best form of intelligence. AI is great. It's not perfect, and I think there's always nuance that a fully automated AI system will not be able to achieve. So building the tools around, having an integrated tool set around metadata and search, which allows human operators to actually work very efficiently and effectively in managing assets and the metadata that come with those assets, like having strong vocabularies and being able to have a consistent metadata set is very important. And that ultimately is what will allow you to then transform your metadata to any standard, like at the interface between interchange. So there's things like IMF, which I think we're seeing more and more of, and having well-defined schemas at that level are important. But once you've acquired the content, then you can't limit yourself to whatever that standard is offering. You need more, and you need it in the shape that you want it to be, rather than what the standard authorities are sort of telling you it should be.
Yeah, one challenge that I just cannot figure out how we're going to solve is how the origin of metadata, which is often done in a production house, or it's done by someone writing a press release, how the origin of metadata, the first person to write it down, can play nice with downstream optimization and downstream standardization. It's been a recurring challenge that I've been exposed to, that we can build great systems all day long, but the actual first person to write down the data in the first place is usually using some technology, or just email or spreadsheets, that really kind of cuts out a big challenge for us downstream. We're trying to turn that into something that we can take action on, but
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll
I
find
think
a solution for that too.
yeah, well, I think that's the beauty of the of cloud platforms and the movement of systems onto the cloud. Predominantly, they become a web-based system.
Mhm.
No, and everything is driven through the browser, and it makes it a lot more accessible. So you can make specialized tools available remotely
Mhm.
and packaged in such a way that you don't need to be a super duper
Yeah.
expert operator in order to be able to do things. Because ultimately, if you're putting things on the browser, people anticipate and expect a fully browser-like experience, simple but powerful and effective. And you put those tools to those type of people. I think it will help clean things up a little bit.
Yeah. Let's hope so. Um, the AWS has kind of two broad tiers of machine learning services. They've got the abstracted application tier, so that's like recognition and poly and comprehend. But they got the SageMaker 2 tier where you can build out your own ML architectures. Where is Dalet kind of exploring and creating solutions at today? Are they building deep learning algorithms on their own architectures? Are you incorporating recognition and comprehend and those types of solutions?
We have the Media Cortex product, which is built, which runs in AWS, sort of fully serverless architecture,
Mhm.
and it's taking, from a technology point of view, it's taking leveraging that side. I'm not quite in, knowledgeable of the details of what they're doing underneath there, but they are using those facilities, and there's some other algorithms that we are working on.
Mhm.
But I think beyond the the analysis of media, video and audio content itself, I think there's a case for AI, which I'm interested in from my point of view, as far as Flex is concerned, is how do you make the factory, so to speak, a little bit more intelligent? How can you, if you're dealing at things in large, with a large volume of workflows and a large volume of file movements, how do you optimize that movement? What can you do in order to make the machine work more efficiently and things to happen at the right time when they're expected to?
Great.
So no, it's definitely, and having the tools that AWS is offering, definitely takes the burden off, and the packaging that they have around this technology certainly makes it more accessible to allow us to actually experiment and fail fast and learn quickly from what we're doing.
Yeah, the mantra that I have is that the AWS stack with machine learning is really written for developers and have developers in mind. And I'd like to convince even front end developers that they too can experiment and develop solutions with that stack. It's just simple endpoints with JSON. And so hopefully the development community really embraces that stack and incorporates it in their products.
Yeah.
So we got, we talked about, from hardware to cloud, and also with that kind of the move or the challenge to be, just from throughput to actual good digital challenges that might be more complicated than some of the media entertainment companies' internal competencies, and that products like yours help enable them and shepherd them to use the cloud appropriately. So that's today. Where do you think we're going with media management, media distribution, and cloud technologies in the next 3 to 5 years? What are some of your forecasts about the engineering and technology side in the media entertainment industry?
I think more of the workflow will shift onto the cloud, and we can see that Amazon is, for example, making big moves like recent announcements around CDI and stuff like that. Do show the intent, and as well as their portfolio of media-centric products. And I think we'll probably see this now across all the different cloud providers. But definitely AWS has been at the at the forefront of this, and they continue to do so. I definitely, so there's going to be more stuff moving into cloud, but then the consumption is going to change, and the relationship with the service is going to change. So I think there'll be more SaaS-based services, not necessarily managed by the content creators themselves, but perhaps through companies like ours or partners. But I think it's also the fact that these services are going to be accessible through APIs. So media creators or content owners who have the capabilities are going to be able to utilize those APIs to their advantage, and basically do things that are not anticipated from the services that AWS or even Dalet is offering. So having that openness is certainly probably going to create some new use cases that will help the media companies become more efficient. But definitely what we're seeing is companies moving, like even complete archives onto the cloud. They're done with, when I say tape archives, this is digital tape archives. It's the backup storage. We have big media companies moving their full show, everything into Glacier and things like that. And I think that's going to become, something which is going to be more and more. I think the next refresh cycles that these companies go through are going to be looking at cloud native, cloud first solutions rather than, let's build another data center, bring in more racks and this and that. I think those days are gone. So production will be, possibly, I think eventually we'll get to a point where cameras will be, I think we're probably already there, but the bandwidth will be there to have, multiple cameras streaming directly into the cloud and, everything happening in the cloud. So yeah, I think that's where it will go. The capabilities are definitely there. Codecs are being prepared for those sort of scenarios, and definitely the compute power is there. And there'll be more of it as we go along.
I'm really looking forward to with this migration and move to cloud first. The opportunities for personalization when it comes to video. And that I'm not just stuck to particular front doors, but that my media experience can kind of cross different brands, different streams, and then a lot of that's fed by metadata. But that requires, again, a really, really strong metadata universe, and in particular, an upstream metadata source that's invested in that outcome. Awesome. What are and it's probably one of my final questions for you today with the Flex product in particular. What are you excited about for it in the next 12 months or so?
Well, we are sort of currently working on making Flex ready for the future, which I described, which is SaaS. So, we already operate single tenant SaaS in the cloud, either something that we manage on VPCs and that our customers manage. But we now anticipate actually operating multi-tenant SaaS, a multi-tenant SaaS business model. So that is exciting for us because obviously that's going to increase up the bar, of the way we engineer things, the problems that come along with multi-tenancy of, if your lights go out, then you've got a larger problem to deal with. So, increasing our standing with regards to reliability and those sort of things. So we've been doing a lot of work on that, but also integrating more closely with the facilities that cloud systems are offering, so that we have a more seamless experience and have a something which is really leveraging the full potential of the cloud that our clients, big and small, will be able to take advantage of. So yeah, that's hopefully where we're going to be at. And then there's things that we are always mindful of. So you have your security that becomes a big concern. So you're in the public cloud, so making sure that you're a good citizen and that you're deploying software that is secure and you're following the right practices. That is something that is constantly under consideration. But it's because as you go up, as you're doing more and more, you gain visibility. So it just becomes a bit of an important topic, I think, for everyone involved to stay secure.
Yeah, absolutely. But it sounds like you're having a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's certainly one of those things where, I think with the recent events globally, with COVID and everything changing around it, the demand is there. I think if previously people were sitting on the fence on when, whether they will go to the cloud or not, I think people are being pushed in one direction currently, and everyone's falling off the fence. Everyone wants to start availing themselves of the services that we offer. And currently we're doing that with larger scale customers, but ultimately the problems that we solve are equally important for different types of customers, not necessarily from the M&E space, but anyone who creates content. And let's face it, everyone is creating content nowadays.
Right. No, and yeah, acceleration is going to be key, and that's the value prop I think a lot of folks are looking for is, can you accelerate me into the cloud?
Yeah,
awesome.
For sure.
Lincoln Spiteri, thank you for joining us today. If anyone wants to get in contact with you and learn more about Dalet, where can they go?
I'm available on LinkedIn, and happy to connect with people who are interested. And also, if they're interested in Dalet, then they can visit dalet.com, our website, and hopefully they'll learn a lot more about what we do and the sort of clients that we serve.
Great. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.